T minus 1 minute. T minus 50 seconds. T minus 40 seconds. T minus 30 seconds. T minus 20 seconds. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Own it, own it, own it, Kong. I own it. It did.
Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet.
All right, I'm sorry, y'all. Hey. Welcome to Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. And also, welcome to our NXT 2.0/UK Aftershow. As usual, I'm your girl, Stephanie Hardy, just rushing in from a storm here in Birmingham. It's crazy outside, but I'm here, thankfully. Host and creator of the Hardy Wrestling Podcast, co-host of Women's Wrestling Talk, and commentator for the Belladonna division, and anywhere else you might need me, I'll commentate for you. Book your girl. I mean, I'm available. But I'm also here with my amazing co-host, an amazing super mom, backstage interviewer, host of NCAT We Trust. She is beautiful and talented. This is Katrina Blake. How are you?
Always such an amazing entrance. I am well. It's the weather's been a bit funny in New York as well, but we are here, guys. We are here.
Yes, and of course, if you guys have any thoughts about anything that we're talking about, involving NXT 2.0 and NXT UK, please go off in our comments. We love seeing what you guys have to say and hearing your opinion. So please pop off in the comments if you hear something that you like, or if you want to chime in on anything that happened on both shows. Of course, NXT 2.0 takes place on Tuesdays at 8/7 Central on USA, and NXT UK takes place on Thursdays at, I believe, 2 p.m. Central Time, and maybe 3 p.m. in other places, and of course at different times in the UK on Peacock. So please check those shows out if you want to chime in with us and participate in the conversations that we have. NXT 2.0 started, had an amazing main event involving the women, but we'll get to that towards the end of the 2.0 time. But of course, NXT 2.0 started with a match with Cameron Grimes and JD McDonough, formerly known as Jordan Devlin, the Irish Ace. Even though he is still known as the Irish Ace to a certain degree, his name has changed to JD McDonough. So yeah, this match was pretty fire, if I do say so myself. It was really steady. As you can see, Cameron Grimes came in with a lot of heat. He was still looking to prove himself in the midst of him having lost 2 major opportunities at the NXT Championship and the NXT North American Championship. But JD McDonough was also looking to prove himself as well, seeing as he was making his re-debut on NXT as well. And he seemed to work on the injured knee that Cameron Grimes had from his last match against Braun Breaker. And as he just kept utilizing that strategy, it was like Cameron Grimes was still sort of struggling to wrestle around it, but he did do a pretty good job. But it turns out that that injury was just too much for Cameron Grimes. And JD McDonough came out with the win. And it was really sad. Well, it was a wonderful debut for JD, but it was really sad to see Cameron Grimes, in this slump of sorts. Because with him losing as many times as he has, and then losing this match, it was just really sad to see. But then, strangely enough, someone was watching this match from the NXT platform, and that was Joe Gacy, who seems like he wants to either recruit Cameron Grimes or he's seeking to give him some type of encouragement. I don't know what it is with that. But Joe Gacy was watching over him, and then later on in the night, him and Cameron Grimes would have a run in backstage as Cameron Grimes was getting ready to leave. And Cameron Grimes just was not in the mood to talk to anybody, wasn't in the mood to talk to any backstage interviewers or nobody. But Joe Gacy was trying to talk to him and trying to recruit him to his side, but Cameron just was not in the mood. But this doesn't look to deter Joe Gacy in any way. So yeah, that's pretty interesting. Like a pretty interesting sort of turnaround for Cameron Grimes, because lately he has been looking a little bit spaced out. So he may, I don't know if he might join the Schism or not. But what do you think about this turn of developments for Cameron Grimes, Cat?
I liked it. I want to say I thought it was a good match, mostly for Jordan. I felt like we already know who he was in UK, as far as what he was able to do and everything. But I did feel like in this match, I felt more for Cameron, only because I feel like he lost his, title shot against Braun. And I feel like he's been a bit lost since then. Like he doesn't really know, and not the necessarily storyline direction. I feel like it's more of a, like, the story for him is his direction. Like, where does he go from here? What can he go for now, kind of vibe. And I feel like he's struggling with that part. And so I do like last week I was a little bit about his promo, because it wasn't the normal Cameron Grimes like confidence he usually had. But I do like, at least with this week, kind of tying into last week, he did seem a bit lost. Like, where do I go after losing? He lost the next North American championship, and then he had Braun, which is the top NXT championship of the brand, and he didn't win that either. And so I like that dynamic, but you could kind of see it even in the ring, that he was kind of struggling with that. And I was a bit surprised by Joe Gacy. Not that he would want new members, because I feel like factions like that, they always want to add to the members, especially when it's like the off-putting, creepy type factions. I guess more so of why is it Cameron that now he's interested in. And so he could very well, being that Cameron is kind of in a place where, where do I go from here? Or is this like, trying to figure out what, they say about like cults, where you get cult members, and sometimes it's always the people who are easily either influenced, or they kind of don't know where they're going in life at the moment, and so the cult get them at that time. And so while I know they're not called cult, but they give you cult vibes, Jay Gacy and his goons. And so I feel like with Cameron kind of feeling all confused as far as what he's doing or where is he going next, it's perfect time that if he did join them, it actually, to me, makes a lot of sense, because he's kind of in a space where he doesn't know where he's going right now. And so you think of how those type of like groups kind of prey on or get people. It's usually when they're like at a weak moment, or when they're really trying to figure out what's for me next, can I find a place for me? And so I feel like if he goes, it makes sense to me. It's like, okay, I can see how. But I felt like while the match was good, I did like that aspect of it, because you can actually see it throughout the match that he truly looked like he was kind of struggling. And I thought that was really good, like, storytelling. And so that was like kudos to Cameron for that.
Yeah, it is great storytelling from that perspective. So it's just, I feel so bad for Cameron, because it's just like, I never want to see someone get so lost to the point to where they feel like they have to join a group to find a sense of belonging. But I have actually been there. I've been in that type of situation myself, but at the same time, you do have to understand that who you are, isn't necessarily just wrapped up in how you win things, or who you are isn't wrapped up in how you lose either. So hopefully Cameron Grimes, can, find his footing again, whether it be by himself preferably, or or whether it might be with the schism, who knows. But like I said, we'll talk more about the schism a little bit later as we go into NXT 2.0.
Yeah.
But yeah, but after that, we got an explanation from Miss Ma'am, Miss Generation Cora Jade, who is one half of, or maybe not, one half of the NXT Women's Tag Team Champions. We got an explanation as to why she stabbed Roxanne Perez in the back. It's like, of course, they said they were best friends, and of course, they ganged up together to take the titles away from Toxic Attraction, Gigi, and JC. But Roxanne Perez was really feeling herself, in a sense that she was feeling confident in her abilities to take the NXT Women's title off of Mandy Rose, because she had that contract that she won in the Women's Breakout Tournament. But we did not know, of course, that behind the scenes, Cora Jade was jealous of her at this point, and she had planned to attack her and planned to sort of, take her out. We
Yeah.
had no clue. And throughout the night last Tuesday, they were asking, who did this, who attacked Roxanne, and everybody was accusing everybody, saying, "Oh, Toxic did it, Nikita did it, all these different people." Kind of like a "Who Shot JR" thing for those who are up on soap opera stuff. I know that was a long time ago, but I'm just saying that's kind of how it was.
It was.
Yeah, but at the same time, we found out later on that Cora Jade was the one who attacked her, and then she proceeded to beat her up with the skateboard even more and ruined her chances of winning the title off of Mandy Rose. Um, so it was really heartbreaking to see that last week. So now we got an explanation, and Cora basically called herself the true breakout star of NXT and made us sort of remember and recall how everybody, talked about her being the breakout star of the last War Games match that they had last year, which is true because she did pull off a lot of great stuff during that match if you do watch it back. And everybody was talking about her and talking about her as the future. And even with her match against Natalia in more recent months, a lot of people were happy for her and seeing that she was able to step up to the plate and face someone, with the credentials of Natalia, being from the Heart Dungeon and all of that. So I guess you would say that she felt a way when Roxanne came in and everybody was saying sort of the same things about her, and how accomplished she was in the indies and all this other stuff. But Cora didn't take too kindly to that, but she was just like, fine, you're my best friend, we're gonna get together and we're gonna win a title. And finally, when she was able to win a title, she was mad at Roxanne for wanting to be greedy and go for the title that she never could win. So she basically said it's her time to shine now, and she doesn't care about the women's tag team titles. And she proceeded to give the ultimate form of disrespect by throwing her NXT women's tag team title in the trash can. She basically pulled a Medusa. She pulled a Medusa. She pulled a JBL. There have been tons of other people who have done it as well. But when it comes to women doing it, the most infamous form of throwing a title in the trash can came from Medusa, who actually co-signed with her and said that it was on social media, and said that it was a cool, you know, way to pay tribute to her in a sense, but just to make it her own. And we got some stuff going on in the comments. Chad, thank you, Chad, said, I hope Cora reverts to more of her Elena Black gimmick through this heel turn. I actually don't know a lot about Elena Black. But maybe Kat, you could speak a lot to it because you seem like you agreed with that sentiment.
I mean, I can see it. It's a lot different than the skater, like the skateboard gimmick she kind of had going on in NXT. And so I can see if they really want to push the heel, how they can play with that. But I had my own issue. Like I felt like in a way you kind of like, for me last week, I did suspect it was Cora. Once she just randomly popped up, I'm like, all right, like we know how wrestling is. you mentioned the soap operas. Soap operas, I used to watch them with my mom and grandma as well. And so they had like the drama and like somebody fell down some steps, for instance, or somebody got hit by a car, or whatever the case may be. They'd be like, they don't know who it is. And it's always the one person, the closest. If you're the person like you're supposed to not suspect, but it's always the person closest. And so I actually thought it was Cora, honestly, because who else would have this much of a beef with Roxanne so soon? Yes, Roxanne had a bit of a quick, projection to where she got to, but it wasn't like she was like stepping over people to get there. It wasn't like she was being like a shitty person or anything on her route there. She was still being kind and doing what she needed to be done. And so it wouldn't made sense for some people they thought it was. And though I know there was even a thing last week where they thought it was toxic attraction, I'm like, I feel like, do they really need to do the underhanded when we've seen them do the petty things already? Kind of bragging about being petty. Why would they now need to revert to being this weird, like, oh, let's pretend, like, like it's not us. Let's do this really shady, open this show with, Roxanne on the parking lot floor. And so I didn't think it was them. Off of everything they've done so far has been pretty out in the open. Like they've been bragging about their run in NXT and all of that. And so that kind of tossed that out the window for me. And so I did felt it was Cora, especially when Cora was like supposedly concerned. And I'm like, okay. I thought like, yes, you can kind of play around with the jealousy storyline, considering yes, there was the whole thing with her and Natty. Cora and Natty, and how everybody was like, oh, she did so well, and there was a really good match, and like Natty was supposed to be her like her idol and everything, and then you get Roxanne who just like come in and do what she does. So I figured it would happen. I didn't think it would happen so soon. I think my issue with it happening at soon was because you had Katana and Kaden, who could have probably won the titles if you're gonna take the titles off Toxic Attraction. I felt like it was just a really weird move. And while I know when I was at TK last week, I understood she was saying as well, but it's like, did we like? Can you tell this same story without necessarily having a tag team that's been a tag team for a bit not win the titles, to take the titles off Toxic Attraction and cause this random thing with Cora and Roxanne? Like, is this the thing that really make the heel turn? Couldn't it have been when like Natty was talking crap before, even though they gave a hug? Natty was saying some kind of low blow things during that little feud. And like even with Toxic Attraction, a lot of stuff that was happening, it could have been like, should it really been Roxanne, who literally was like what 3 weeks maybe you had, and then all of a sudden it's like this is the reason, like that was the moment. And so that was a little bit questionable for me as far as the timing, but I did think it was going to happen, and I did figure it was her. I just didn't think it would happen so soon. So her throwing the title in the trash, it was just like, can you just say you want to vacate the title and like let Roxanne fend for herself? Like if you have to do it, like I don't want to be tag team with her. Like she took my shine, F her. And again, logically, it kind of makes sense. Like you can feel a little way about her trajectory was so much quicker than Cora's. But like, why not just like, I'm not going to be your tag team partner and let somebody, like, why do you have to throw it in the trash? I'm like, this is not one of those scenarios where it was like you was that disrespected. Because like, come on. In that case, I can make an argument for some of the other women that was on the NXT that could have pulled that same, story about being disrespected or something. And so I guess we'll see. But I mean, it was okay. It was a decent segment. I didn't really like her, like the whole best friends thing. I'm always impartial. People call each other best friends, like really quick too, because I'm like, I've been those friendships where they weren't good friends, and so I had to learn that the hard way. And so now it's like when I hear that best friend, like, are you really best friends, or you just be like, hey, bestie, and it's not really any feeling behind that. And so I guess we'll see if they're gonna have Roxanne also vacate the title. They're gonna give Roxanne a new tag partner. How they're gonna pull this off, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah, and hilariously enough, there was a point where Toxic Attraction was backstage and they were saying, so when are we going to get our titles back? But then they were interrupted. But the thing that I saw the sentiment that I saw a lot of online was kind of like mixed reviews. There were some people who liked the fact that they threw it in the trash, but then a lot of people were saying they didn't like it simply because they feel like it's almost like WWE's sentiment towards women having tag titles on the main roster and on NXT in the first place. But honestly, in my opinion, I feel like the women's tag team titles on NXT have been booked a little bit better and a little bit more consistent than the women's tag titles on the main roster. And I don't think it'll ever be at that point, considering, like I said, you still have Team Toxic, and then you also still, have Team Casey Squared that could go after those
Yeah.
titles as well, because that's really what they've been gunning for. And then you also have other women who could team with Roxanne, and want to defend it. That is, if she might want to continue to defend it, even though, it ended, her and her partnership with Cora ended in such a terrible way.
Yeah.
So Katrina, what I do want to ask you though is, do you think that her being storyline purposes, her being sort of told to throw it in the trash can do you think it's indicative of how the company feels towards women's tag team wrestling?
I mean, I did see that floating around on social media as well about that, like how we don't really get much respect, at least for the women's tag teams. I feel like, well, the men's tag teams can use a little bit extra, but the Usos has been there for like SmackDown tag team type champions for like a year now, I believe. You have
Yeah.
like Street Profits, and you have some teams. But like the women's tag teams, they can really do a little better as far as how they portray that. And so it could be that, but it also could just be like, what's a quick way to piss people off? Throw a title in the trash. So it could really well be just like a quick way to get a reaction out of, like, you're a heel. What's a way to get some kind of heat? Throw the title in the trash. Especially since people do like Roxanne. It's like, oh, she not only did you stab her in the back, but then you're like, yo, F the title too. Let's toss it. And so it could be like maybe they really don't see the tag titles as far as the women's division as great, but it also could be like maybe they just want her to get quick heat as well. Uh, you got people like how wrestling fans are about their belts, and they pride and hold on to them even at shows. That's a quick way to piss a wrestling fan off. Like, oh, you threw the belt in the trash. Like, okay, like that's a little bit crossing the line. And so it could really well just been a quick way to get some heat too. So, but I can see how it could also be like, well, maybe they don't take it seriously, but maybe it's just a way to kind of piss people off. Like, let Cora do this and kind of really cement her as being a heel.
Yeah, maybe so. It's just like sometimes when I look, even when I was looking at Cora Jade, and she came out, to her old interest music, um, and with her sort of coming out, she has a little bit of a face that it's just, I mean, physically, she has the type of face that you would necessarily would think would be a heel immediately. So maybe, just maybe, they really did that to sort of up the ante, in a really big way for her. And honestly, I wasn't mad about it, because it's like I said, we've seen so many people throw titles in the trash before. So I wasn't too angry about it, but I am interested in seeing where she goes from here, but we will talk about that. And also where Roxanne goes from here too, because I know she isn't just going to take something like that just sitting down. So
Yeah.
yeah, but we're in very interesting times. So I thought this was really cool. So also in the midst of that, there was um a backstage promo with Zion Quinn, who was praising Cora Jade for dropping Roxanne. And he was also proceeding to brag on himself and talk about how he even has more charisma and more stuff to offer than half the people on the main roster, which I thought was very interesting, because I'm just like, sir, you've never even been on the main roster. Chill. Then on top of that, he proceeded to challenge Apollo Crews to a match next week. So I'm interested in seeing that. I think that's going to be cool. So we get to see more of the Apollo Crews advent in NXT 2.0 at this point.
Yeah.
And we get to see more of Zion Quinn, because sometimes, he's been kind of in and out. So hopefully he'll be a little bit more consistent
Yeah.
with his appearances now
Yeah.
that he's fighting someone like Apollo Crews, who has made success on the main roster and now come back home. So
Yeah.
I am interested in that. That's going to be cool. So moving on, we had Roderick Strong versus Damon Kemp. We have more of, oh my God, we have more of Diamond Mine Civil War going on. Jesus Christ. So this match was something I was looking forward to, simply because of the fact that I know Roderick Strong is such a good wrestler. He's so fantastic, with his athleticism. But then you have Damon Kemp, who is who has that amateur wrestling background, and also, his background from the University of Minnesota. So he was also looking to prove himself in this match as well. I was kind of worried when Roderick, challenged him, because I was just like, bro, like, you're making it even worse. Like, you're causing more of a rift than you need to cause. Like, chill out.
Yeah.
But oh my god, this match was really good. I enjoyed it. I loved watching their athleticism, show off with each other. But then in the midst of that, Tony D'Angelo popped up on the screen and showed his D'Angelo family beating up on the rest of Diamond Mine, the Creed brothers, the NXT Tag Team Champions. And I was just like, oh my God, this is terrible. Um, but in the midst of all that happening, Roderick Strong wound up laying Damon Kemp out with a high knee to take the win before rushing to the back to assist the rest of Diamond Mine from getting beat up. So it was just pretty interesting to sort of watch him, sort of take down Damon Kemp little by little. But Damon was using his power to try to fight off, but it was just too much for him. So Roderick Strong came out with the win, and I guess he needed this win to sort of assert the fact that, I'm the leader and you need to listen to me. But there's so much more to address with him and his issues. Because even after him and Damon came to his defense, Damon came a little bit late after their match was over, but Roderick was yelling at him and berating them for getting beat up. Hello? Cat, I can't hear you.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. All right. Sorry guys. There's a storm going on in the back. But yeah, like I was saying, it's like Roderick was screaming at them and he was blaming them for getting beat up, and I'm just like, there's like four guys in comparison to the Creed brothers too, and Damon Kemp was recovering from the beatdown that you gave him. It was just like, why are you yelling at them? He's just being a very abusive leader and I hate it. Like,
He
he's
is.
Oh my god, I hate it so much. But Kat, tell me, how do you feel about this civil war, and where do you see it going after this point? Because I just feel like it should be done. Like, they should run away from him.
I mean, I'm hoping. I mean, and we talked in previous weeks that we were hoping that they will work it out and kind of stay together and not break up, because they always seem to get a good faction and then WWE breaks them up. And so hopefully, it's one of those super, situations where it just needed to, how sometimes you gotta kind of like let it out or get that fight out and then everything is fine. And so hopefully with this match, because I did felt like in this regard, Roderick does what he does best. And so he kind of dissected Kemp in this. And I felt like maybe that was needed to kind of say, you know what, I am like, you guys hopefully will get it in your heads that I am the person in charge. And while yes, you don't want to be an a-hole, because he definitely was after all of that, it's like, dude, if you taught him a lesson by beating him in the match and you went back there to help the squad, you can't then at the same turn help the squad but then yell at the squad. You cannot do that. Like, I personally would be like, all right, first of all, that. So I feel like I'm hoping that maybe like they can hash this out, but I feel like if Roderick keep with like the attitude of like, you clearly care enough that you went back to help them, and so it wasn't like you were completely upset about it. But you can't talk to them all kinds of crazy either. You can't have people like self-esteem like, oh, it's your fault you got beat up. But if they get jumped, is it really, like a situation like if you get jumped, you might not always win that situation if you're being jumped. It's not like a one-on-one situation, and so hopefully he get it together, because I felt like they could have maybe started ending it once he won the match, but then he was like yelling and stuff, so it's like, oh, all right, well, maybe it's not over. And so it could really, but I'm hoping they end it soon, and they can go back to being good again. Like, we don't need all this discord, okay? Like, we can't be doing this with all the
Right.
teams.
I'm sick of it. I'm so sick of them fighting. Like, it's terrible. But I do want to go into the comments a little bit. Yes, JD, thank you. I do have a new look. Thank you. I had new hair. Gotta get your hair done sometimes. Gotta take
That's
some time
right.
for yourself. Um, and we got Steffi Chu, hello, with emojis. Yep, women's wrestling.
Hey,
Yeah.
hey.
I wish I knew what these emojis were.
It says
Oh,
raid, I think.
oh, okay. Yeah, I'm free. Yeah. Yes, JD says he sounds like quite the meanie head. Yes, like Roderick Strong is being very abusive, but hopefully, they can turn it around because they challenged each other. So now it's going to be the D'Angelo family versus Diamond Mine in a tag team match. I believe it's happening next week. So they did announce that. So it's going to be, so I think that's going to be pretty good. And I'm also wondering, will the legato half of the D'Angelo family really be operating on all cylinders, or will they, sort of start to show those cracks in there? I don't know. It was interesting. But then they also had, after that point, they had more pre-tape promos, from all of the women who are participating in the Battle Royal to become the number one contender for Mandy Rose's NXT Women's title. We heard from Nikita Lyons, Tiffany Stratton, and Indy Hartwell. So that was really cool. And then the D'Angelo family continued to talk about, they also bigged up Elektra Lopez, who looked absolutely stunning, by the way, in the battle royal as well. But like I said, we'll get to that later. So moving on, the next match we had was was for the NXT UK tag team titles, with Josh Briggs and Brooks Jensen versus Pretty Deadly. And this was hilarious because, of course, y'all know I love Pretty Deadly, and I just love how they came out in their outfits. It was very cowboy chic. I loved it when they came out with their cowboy hats. And they also proceeded to say "Roll Tide" again because they just love to tickle me with that. But yeah, they came out and just were just cowboying it up, and they just looked super cute. Um, you can always count on them to bring the fashion.
Definitely.
But this match was really, really good, even though there was a point where it looked like they were trying to, utilize, underhanded tactics and distractions, but Fallon Henley actually got caught up with it and actually like got hit and speared out of the ring, off of the apron and onto the floor. And it looked like she suffered a little bit of an injury, which could have posed a problem for her in her participation in the battle royal that was supposed to take place that night. But the match continued to go on. Oh my god, as you can see in these pictures, you got clotheslines, going on. You had a suplex into a clothesline. Like, it was just a really good match, even though there was a spotty area where a couple where there was miscommunication going on and with botches and stuff. But outside of that, it was still a pretty good match. And yeah, okay, JD said those cowboy pants are snug. But hey, that's Pretty Deadly for you. Their clothes are snug. They like to have that tight fit so you can see everything they've got going on. So yeah. But in the midst of that, like I said, the match was pretty good. And um Brooks and Josh came out with the win, so they retained the NXT UK tag team titles. So even though the finish was a little bit messy, Pretty Deadly, might still have a little bit of a axe to grind with them. I do possibly see them, wanting a rematch for those titles or whatnot. But like I said, it was pretty good out. It was pretty good outside of the little, hiccups that they had in the match. So, Kat, what did you think of this match?
I thought it was a good match. There was a little bit of moments where it could have been a little bit cleaner. I want to say, and so unfortunately, we was able to notice. I feel like sometimes if a mistake happened, you may not notice it depending on how well the wrestler's able to kind of bounce back. There were some that I didn't notice, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, hopefully, the next time, because I do believe there will be a rematch as well. I feel that because of the way the ending was, I do also believe that it should be a rematch at some point. Maybe not in a week, but I feel like at some point within a month there will probably be another rematch. And so who knows if, excuse me, if Pretty Deadly, will take the belts back. And so, it was still a fun match overall. Again, Pretty Deadly is like entertaining. And so because they like are like over the top theatrical a bit, like they're over the top with even like their clothes, they're like the way they like say things, and so I like that. It's really entertaining, and so I thought it was an entertaining match. It could have been a more cleaner and tighter in spots, but it was good. And I do think that again, we don't have to like because I sometimes WWE be dropping the ball with tag team wrestling, and so we're never always sure how well a team will last or if they're gonna do something else with this tag team. And so I'm hoping that, you know how we have like the Usos Street Profits feud. There's a feud that could keep and it's like usually pretty entertaining. Where like we saw it like 5 times, but it's like the match is gonna give, like it's gonna be a good match. I'm hoping we can kind of get something very similar where it's like, even if this is like a really drawn out fit, and it doesn't have to be like every week, but if they come back in like a month or two, that it's going to be a good match. And so I'm hoping that's what we get from this. So it was a fun match. I just thought there should have been moments where it was a bit little tighter in some of the moments that were happening, but there were some good moments, and I did think it was a fun match. And I do feel like if they keep with this and not like kind of, because you can't be too sure with WWE sometimes, then this can be one of those really good tag team feuds, like just a good solid tag team feud. And so I'm hoping that's what we get.
Yeah, hopefully that is what we get. But yeah, I was really glad to see Brooks and Josh sort of, retain, because it's just, I feel like they just won it and I just didn't want them to lose, especially
Yeah.
to these UK guys who just keep insulting them over and over again. And it's like you're dressing like them while also at the same time, you know, insulting them. And I'm just like, you cannot do that. That's rude. Like, leave them alone. Yeah, they're country boys, but let them be proud of it. It's okay. Also, I wonder if Pretty Deadly thinks that we all dress like that down here. Spoiler alert, we don't. But I say that, but yet today I have on bell bottom pants. But but bell bottom pants are my favorite. I don't wear hats though. But either way, I feel like I would wear a hat though. You know what? Let me just stop. I feel like I'm proving this point. Either way, they're still the UK NXT UK Tag Team Champions. But after that, Joe Gacy popped up and actually gave his two members um of the Schism a purification or baptism of sorts by smoke. It wasn't by water, it was by smoke. And he revealed who the two members were. And it was revealed to be Jagger Reed and Rip Fowler, who were formerly James Drake and Zach Gibson of the Grizzled Young Veterans, which made me sad because I actually love them as the Grizzled Young Veterans, but a lot of people have been predicting that it was going to be them because they did disappear after their last, loss as the Grizzled Young Veterans. So they were just like, oh my God, where did they go? Where did they go? And there was a lot of speculation, but they did pop up as the members of the Schism and they've been baptized by smoke. So now them and the Schism are going to cause all kinds of evil. Beware. What did you think about this, Kat?
Well, people did say who it was, and so I think maybe 2 weeks ago we also said I thought it might have been them as well, especially when there were moments they were doing moves. That was like, okay, like there's no, and so I felt like they kind of told them themselves with that part. But now I'm glad they're not in them costumes anymore, because I know they had to be like, I'm thinking about the heat wave we're currently having now, and I'm like imagine having then to wrestle in that when it's like 100 degrees, like no. And so I'm so glad that they decided like, you know what, we can reveal them, and so they can at least wrestle and like regular clothes and not have to wear these like really just heavy like I can't. I felt for them, and so I'm glad like there's a perfect opportunity the week of the heat wave. Let's take that off. And so I know he says purification and all that stuff, but I'm interested now that we it's confirmed it's who we thought it was. To see now what they do with it. Like, are they gonna be even more like sinister because they revealed? Like, are they gonna allow them to push boundaries more with this whole like little faction they got going? And so it was good. I'm interested to see what they do with this. Honestly, now that they revealed.
Me too. Did you see their eyes? Oh my God, it was so scary. Like, the one thing that creeps me out the most is when people have eyes and then they have they're either like different colors or they have contacts in and they be like different ones, and it's meant to throw you off and it's meant to scare you. It scares me so bad. And when I was looking at their eyes, I was just like, "Oh my God." I could not deal. Like, I'm not good at the horror. Like, I'm not good at horror, guys, but that was really creepy. So it's about to go down. But yeah, that's the Schism. We're in for it. So after that, we had a run-in with the NXT champion Braun Breaker and JD McDonough. Braun Breaker, stomped out to the ring with his little tank top on, which I actually thought was really cute. I was just like, look, if they sold more Braun Breaker tank tops like that, I would buy one. Like, sell that. I'll buy that because it was cute with the letters and everything. But he came out there and he did not take too kindly to being attacked by JD McDonough after his match with Cameron Grimes last week. Because as you can see, his shoulder was kind of out of socket and, torn up from his match and also from being attacked by Cameron Grimes, but he has the kinesio tape on there. So he demanded that JD McDonough come out and face him in the ring. And y'all know when Braun Breaker gets riled up, he gets riled up and he starts yelling, in that Steiner way. Y'all know what it is. So he comes out there and he just, he really does tell JD McDonough, like, get your ass out here. But JD McDonough pops up on the Titantron instead. And he promised to rip all 8 muscles out of his shoulder, on his way towards the NXT championship. So he made his, intentions very clear. So yeah, that was pretty much it, from these two. But then weirdly enough, JD McDonough had a mannequin back there, but I think I was doing something else. So Kat, can you elaborate a little bit more on what was going on with the mannequin?
I felt like it was mostly used. I felt like while Braun is like he's kind of like a brawler, no nonsense type champion, but Jordan has like as far as promo, I felt like in this promo with regards, he kind of almost I want to say even ran circles around Braun. It kind of made me a little sad because I'm like, Braun, you're a champion, and you shouldn't be letting like this other person to over top. Not in a promo, not when you're the top champion. I feel like that's when he'll get a little better at that, I guess. And so I believe it was mostly just to kind of be what he was talking to Braun in regards to like it'll be like a piece of cake kind of. And like we know Braun so far has beaten everybody that has been sent his way. I'm feeling like they're trying to imply that this is might be a different type of challenger for him. And so, mind games, being, kind of like plotting and ruthless. And so that's what I got from that segment. But it was good. Like, I mean, I guess it was also good not to see him fight. I'm okay with him not having to fight every show, but as long as he's there in some way, because you are the main champion, and so you should make some kind of appearance. And so I'm okay with that, and I do like that they move along his opponents pretty quickly. Like, he beats somebody, and then here comes the next opponent, and it kind of puts it right in, and it's no delays. And so I appreciate that. But we shall see. I made me a little sad only because I was like, Braun, he really kind of out talked you on the mic just now. Like, damn, like you're a champion. Like, it kind of hurt a little bit because I'm like, you're supposed to be the guy. Don't let them out talk you. And I know obviously that happens often when there's some people who are just better with mic skills, but it's like, man, you're a top guy. Like, you better use some of your family members and be like, listen, let's give you some pointers, and get that out there. But otherwise, it was a good segment. I was a little bit sad that I felt like Jordan was a little better as far as like saying what was necessary to kind of be like, oh, okay, like pay attention, like what he was saying. And so as for the gist of it, I felt like it was more like a use for like saying he'll plot, like he'll do what's necessary. And that might make him a little bit more dangerous, I guess, than his previous opponents that Braun had to face.
Yeah, because when you think about it, JD has been in NXT for a long time. Like a lot longer than Braun Breaker has. Like when NXT was still black and gold, like he was still there because I kind of remember like him fighting Finn Balor because I think Finn Balor trained him, like because I think they're from the same place, as a matter of fact, in Ireland. So it's just like he's been there for a longer time, so he's had more time, to sort of polish his areas where he might not have been as good at. So I feel like maybe we could cut Braun a little bit of slack in that area. Because even though he is the top guy, there is still so much that he still has to learn. So maybe we'll cut him a little bit of slack going up against someone like JD McDonough in terms of a war of words. Because we know that Braun he's a little bit stronger in terms of his intensity and also his athleticism. So he'll bring it, to JD McDonough, but JD also reminds me a little bit of an evil villain, like a even more vicious DreamWorks villain. Not a Disney villain, but a DreamWorks villain. Like he just has that vibe to me. Like he just kind of scary. But I feel like this program is going to be interesting though. Like I am looking forward to it. So we just got to see what happens. Something else that they showed after this segment was them showing like Solo Sokoa going backstage at the Amway Arena for SmackDown this past week. Because it was in Orlando, and a lot of NXT, personalities were taking pictures, outside of the or inside of the SmackDown arena. But he was about to go in, and he said he was about to go in and say hi to the fam, but he got attacked by Von Wagner. So they still got their beef going on, and he got attacked and thrown up against the production truck and everything. And this made me sad because I'm sitting here like, even though your name is Solo Sokoa, you have family members in there who could have helped you. That's so sad.
I thought the
That's
same thing.
so
I'm not
sad.
gonna lie. I'm like, so you can't just call your cousins. Just be like, yo.
Right.
Like, I know what they're trying to do, but I'm like, come on. Like realistically, most people will be like, well, I got fam. Like we're not letting this rock. So, but I definitely
Oh,
thought the same thing.
that upset me so bad. I was just like, so you don't have Papa Paul on speed dial? You can't call up Papa Paul Heyman and tell him that you need some help? I understand you trying to stand on your own 2 feet or whatever, but if you on bloodline territory, you should be able to utilize those bloodline privileges. But no, you got beat up by Von Wagner by yourself. Oh God, that just made me so upset. But I have a feeling this isn't over. We didn't see them anymore this on Tuesday night, but hopefully we'll get more from them. So that was just a little bit frustrating for me. But aside from that, we got another match with the debuting Axiom versus Dante Chen, who is somebody we hadn't seen in a while. Like, where has Dante Chen been at? But either way, he fought in a match against the debuting Axiom. He is masked, and when he came out for his entrance, it was really cool. It was almost like it was giving um what's the name of that? It kind of reminded me of Quicksilver from X-Men, like where he was just
Okay.
coming out and you could see him moving fast or whatever, moving like while everything else is moving in slow motion. That's kind of what it was giving to me. Like it was cool, I liked it. And in this match you saw a lot of Axiom strength, you saw a lot of Dante Chen's power. But then at the same time you had Axiom sort of pulling a lot of his flips, a lot of higher kicks and drop kicks and stuff. So it was a pretty good match, in terms of his style and sort of, showing it off or whatever. And of course, Axiom came out with the win. So it was really good to see him, make his debut and come out with the win. And I admire the fact that he was able to fight like that in a mask. Like the mask has no eyes or anything else like that. So I'm just like, bro, like you're really getting it cracking in this mask and we can't see any part of your face. But he was doing a good job and I liked it. Um, but yeah, it was good. But I just wonder what's next for Dante Chen because this is the first time we had seen him on television in months. I don't know if he's been injured or what, but it was just it was weird. In the comments, speaking to our Solo Sokoa rant, JD said maybe he's that family member that gives awful Christmas gifts. I mean,
I
even if you are that family member, the least you're still worthy of help though. But either way, Axiom came out with the win. But how did you feel about this match, Kat?
I thought it was good. I did like Axion's entrance. I thought it was different. It was like a blur motion. I want to say that's what you call it, but I thought it was really cool. It made it like unique. I felt like it was 50-50 with the win because Chen, was gone for a minute. And so you want a person who's gone for as long as he's been gone to come back and win. But then it's like, oh, this is your debut and you got to win too. And so I also like that he got the win for the debut, but it's also like you feel bad because Chen has been gone for a minute and then he loses when he returns. And so it's like that, oh man. But it also super cool that the guy who just debuted also made an impression and won. And so I felt like, you know, it was kind of 50-50 with that as far as the outcome. But I did thought it was like a fun match. I thought his mask was pretty cool. I thought the entrance was pretty cool. And I thought both of them showcased their styles very well in the match.
Yeah, definitely. I can't wait to see what else Axiom has to offer us. Like it was cool. But then after this match, we had another segment involving Giovanni Vinci trying to leave the performance center, but he got blocked in by the Chase U field trip bus. That was really cute. But he was like, "Yo, who's driving this bus? Like, I need to move out of the way," and that was really funny. But then we also had another interview with Wes Lee, who basically warned Grayson Waller and Trick Williams that he would beat them both when the time was right. And after that, we had another beautiful segment, which I love personally, between the NXT North American champion Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams in the barber shop. I think it's called Cut Wiz, is what it's called. And they were in the barbershop, talking mess about everybody and what they have, next in store, after their little party that they had to celebrate their wins and stuff with all those baddies that they had. With them and everything. Like that was just a really cool segment. And I love watching them in a barbershop because that is a very, beautiful representation of black male and female culture. You go into the barbershop and you're talking about things, but then you're getting a shape up or you're getting your hair done and you're just, talking about stuff and shooting the breeze with your friends and everything. So I really appreciate them showing that part, on NXT. I don't know if they had something to do with it or if it's something that somebody else put in, but either way, kudos to the person who brought that up because that is just really cool. And I feel like that's a great part of our culture that's represented there.
Yeah.
So Wesley, but even with that, I want Wesley to actually get a fair shake and actually beat Trick Williams as much as I love him. I need Wesley to, step up now and, beat him and also beat Grayson Waller because, yeah, like they've been messing him up. And I need Wesley to stand more on his own 2 feet and not just look sad on television. Like I need for him to come out with a win here. So that was pretty much it for that. So we got to the main event, which was the 20 woman number one contenders battle royal. And even a little bit before that, there was a QR code, the last little puzzle thing that they had, for a QR code. And if you scan the QR code, you saw a video with these sets of boots walking towards the ring, and it said NXT 2.0 up next. So I'm thinking, okay, who's coming up next, to participate in this battle royal? So all the women made their way to the ring, and the surprise entrant was none other than Zoe Stark, making her return after being out for months with an injury. Oh my God. It was so good to see her because I just didn't know what was going on with her. I was like, is she going to come back? Like, what was
Yeah.
going on? And it was just really great to see her participate in this battle royal. But it was really like this battle royal was pretty interesting. Well, we got something in the comments. Yeah, okay. Chad said, I was so hyped to see every character in the division interacting with each other and having multiple storylines in the same match. Zoe and Tiffany are natural rivals, class warfare between down to earth versus snob. Oh, yeah, that's pretty interesting. You do have that kind of going on there. But yeah, like it was a lot going on. You still had Tiffany Stratton sort of trying to eliminate Wendy Chu because they, of course, have had their run-ins with each other. You had Nikita Lyons, being the odds-on favorite of everybody, to possibly, win the battle royal. But then, as you can see in that picture, Tiffany Stratton actually did eliminate Wendy Chu, which upset me because I'm just like, girl, I am sick and tired of this clueless girl, this girl who looks like she just ran straight out of Clueless, beating up on my girl Wendy Chu and just being a bully to her. Like, I'm sick of it. And then you just had like all kinds of different, eliminations. Like you had there in that picture, you have Ivy Nile trying to eliminate Kiana James. Oh my gosh, like it was just a lot of stuff going on here. I believe there was another moment where Tatum Paxley eliminated herself in order to try to protect Ivy Nile from getting ganged up on by Team Casey Square, I think. Like
Yeah.
it was just really interesting stuff going on, like Chad said, that could continue to feed into storylines in the future. But oh my gosh, like it was just really good. And the final four was really interesting. You had Nikita Lyons, you had Zoe Stark, you had Tiffany Stratton, and Kiana James left behind. And as you can see from that picture, they're all just kind of doing a stare off at each other, which is that dramatic thing that people do in battle royals. Gotta love it. Um, so as it turned out, Tiffany Stratton eliminated freaking Nikita Lyons, which upset me because I'm just like, no, Nikita, no. But Tiffany just knows that she broke our hearts because afterwards she blew a kiss to her and everything, and I was just like, you know what, dang you, just dang you. Um, but as it continued to go along, they proceeded to beat each other up. And even when it looked like Zoe Stark was the last one left, you had Cora Jade who ran away as the match got started and didn't come back until the tail end. And she ran through the crowd and pretended like she was going to gang up on Zoe Stark to win. But Zoe had her scouted and she flipped her over on the top rope, much to her shock, and Zoe wound up coming out with the win. So now she is the number one contender for Mandy Rose's NXT Women's title, which is such a great way to come back. And then, of course, you had Toxic Attraction watching from the Toxic Lounge, and they were looking like they weren't impressed with what happened. But hey, that's who you've got to fight, Mandy. You got to fight Zoe. So it was really interesting stuff, but it was really great to see this match main event NXT 2.0, and it was great to see someone like Zoe Stark who was using a really creative way to say that she was coming. And no one was expecting her at all. So it was just really cool to see all of those puzzles and the QR codes and everything leading up to her returning. So that was really cool. So congratulations to her. And that's how NXT 2.0 ended. Of course, Chad going off in the comments saying Tatum Paxley will probably join Diamond Mine, maybe. Or maybe let's not speak that upon her because, you know, they're going through their problems. Wendy Chu got hit with her own metal cup, right? And Tiffany versus Nikita is a dream match for the future. Ooh. Yeah, and then Nikita was showing off a lot of her, you know, kickboxing prowess in that match too. And I thought that was really interesting. So you just never know what we've got going on next. So Kat, what did you think of this battle royal? And
I
how do
was
you feel
glad
about the winner?
I was glad that main evented. I thought it was perfect, especially with all the drama surrounding the Mandy Rose title and Toxic Attraction. I thought it was perfect to have the women main event. And so I thought there was a lot. I was mad that Wendy got eliminated because they keep doing her dirty. And like, I'm like, yeah, I gotta stop playing with Wendy. That's my girl. I was a little annoyed by that. There was definitely moments that I did like I didn't really understand. Like, I got it, I guess, but like the whole Ivy like eliminate. I'm like, do we? Is this the way to protect? Like, is this the way we need to go about protecting the person you're trying to protect? I thought that was a little weird, and I feel like this might be like they can use this later on. Like, if it doesn't go, if they ever turn on each other, stuff like this is like, oh, maybe one won't appreciate what the other was doing or something like that. I feel like they can use this, and so we'll see. But I was actually really happy. I know people thought Nikita. I was actually did not want Nikita to win because what people was like Roxanne got pushed and Nikita has been being pushed a lot until she got the little injuries she had before she was gone for a few weeks. She was getting pushed as well, and people wasn't that upset about it, and so and at least with like Roxanne, she's also had the experience in other places. I think this is Nikita's like first wrestling like promotion, I believe. And so I was okay with this one. I liked that Zoe was gone for some time and like I liked how it was like that she would be in a tournament, but I also liked the win, especially when Cora went like super heel, like let's remove myself from the match until the last minute. That's super heel move. Like heels do that all the time. They're like act like they're gonna really do something, and then they're gone, and then they try to come back and get that win. And so I loved that Zoe was the one to kind of get rid of Cora. I felt like that was perfect because Cora swore she was coming for the title next.
Mm-hmm.
Swore after leaving Roxanne, it was all her time to shine. And so I love that Zoe just was like, not today. I love that. I love that she was the winner. Having her kind of look at the Toxic Attraction Lounge, like, I'm coming. I loved even the angle to that. I thought was really good. And so I'm excited for this. I think that, it very possibly, if they do this right, she very possibly can beat Mandy. I feel like she has the skill set too. And so it's not like, she can't wrestle. She can wrestle. She showed that, throughout the match. And so I thought it was a really good like end. I was really, really happy with the winner. There were some moments and I feel like, yes, like with certain ones, you're like, okay, you can see who they're gonna try to really push. Like these are the new NXT women. You're gonna see who they're gonna really try really hard to keep pushing. And so that was pretty obvious with having like Tiffany being one of the final four as well. And so I feel like you can kind of see what NXT is trying to do with some of the stars, but I also was really, really happy with the ending. And I do feel like, because Zoe is getting very down to earth and as well, but then Toxic Attraction is like bougie a bit bougie, a bit like I'm better, we better than y'all. And I feel like, maybe knock some sense into Mandy. And if who else can do that and do it where I'm like, not really, not questioning it too much. And she's also somebody who's been on NXT for some time. And so I was good. I was good with it.
Yeah, I was too. Even though, I do love Nikita, I was happy for Zoe though, because it was just a good moment for her. And it was also just really good to watch to watch Cora Jade kind of just, get humbled a little bit because she was kind of feeling herself after she stabbed her best friend in the back. And then also you had the continuation of other storylines. Like I forgot to mention Alba Fire getting into it with Lash Legend or whatever. So I completely forgot to mention that, but at the same time, like it's just really good stuff going on with their women's division, and kudos to them for having the main event. Like that's always refreshing to see. So yeah, and I do agree with your other sentiment involving, who should be getting pushed and who should be in line, and who's, good to wait and stuff like that. Nikita doesn't necessarily need this win. So you're right about that. So, other women, can have the opportunity. And right now it's Zoe Starks' time. So it's gonna be really good. I'm excited about it. And also shout out to Tatum Paxley because she actually follows me on Twitter and I thought that was cool. That was fun. Yeah, Chad said the match itself between Mandy and Zoe will be excellent. I hope the storyline leading up to it is comedic and engaging. I'm sure it will be because I don't know what NXT has up next in terms of one of their specials or their takeovers. They don't really call them takeovers anymore, but I don't know what they have coming up next, but either way it's going to be great. So
Yeah.
it's going to be great and we're going to cover it. We'll be here. So that's pretty much the end of NXT 2.0. But now we're going to go into the UK side of things. Now I was only able to see the first two matches of NXT UK, which was of course Isla Dawn versus Fallon Henley, and Dave Mastiff versus Josh Morrell. The rest of it I was not able to see because I was navigating myself. I was navigating through a storm, and floodwaters. So I am sorry. But either way, I'm going to lead into NXT UK by talking about this first match, which of course, like I said, they started with the women. It was between Isla Dawn and Fallon Henley. We hadn't really seen Isla Dawn. I hadn't seen really much of Isla Dawn since she had her really great match against Meiko Satamura for the NXT UK Women's title. But she fought against Fallon Henley, who was, of course, attached to the NXT UK Tag Champions. And this match was pretty good. I enjoyed it. It was like I feel that Isla Dawn is probably the most experienced, was the most experienced in this match, but Fallon Henley was able to show that she was not, about to play any games with her and show like, I am willing, to meet you where you're at. And it was really good. But there was even this really weird point where it felt like Isla Dawn was kind of possessed during the match while she had her, in a lock. And I was just like, girl, what is going on here? It was kind of creepy, but outside of that, it was still a pretty good match. And Isla Dawn came out with the win. And she connected with a half Nelson side slam for that win. So I enjoyed this match, and it was a really good way to start NXT UK with some women's action. So it looks like in the comments, Chad is saying that Isla is my favorite UK character. And Fallon is a new favorite from 2.0. This was my match of the night. Okay, cool. Oh, and you also said I'm also surprised Isla won because I thought Fallon was getting a bigger push. I'm happy my creepy sister Isla won. Yeah, it's kind of interesting how they did do that in a sense, but Fallon has time to sort of build up her, credentials in terms of wrestling. So she's very young, so she still has time to start. But Kat, how did you feel about this match?
I thought it was a great open. UK usually really knock it out the park with, their matches being an hour. And I feel like I say this every week, but it's true. because of their time that they have, I feel like they really make sure they give really good moments, matches, and segments. And so I thought it was a good open. I was a little bit with Isla's little weird thing, like I didn't really know what they were going with that. But and I was surprised honestly with her winning because I thought Fallon was going to get a bit of a push with considering her previous matches in the last few weeks. But I thought it was a really solid open. I thought it was a really, really good match. I thought both women were able to showcase like what they do, what they're good at, and so definitely a really solid opening to the UK, NXT UK this week.
Yes, definitely. And then there's more that sort of ties into the women's division with NXT UK because they had a segment backstage after the commercial break where they showed Meiko Satamura accepting Sarray's challenge, to a singles match. There's no word yet if this match is going to be for the NXT UK Women's title, but I would hope that it is simply because of the fact that, I just want to see Sarray challenge for a major title because we really haven't seen her, do that as of yet.
Yeah.
So I want to see if it's going to be for the title. But either way, she was also, using that time to say hello to her fans in Japan and talk about how happy she is to be a part of NXT UK and how much fun she's having. So that was really precious. And I love, I just love babyface stuff. So Sarray is just so precious and I just want to hug her. But yeah, that was cool. But she'll get tough in that ring. So her and Meiko will have a really good match. So I'm excited for that. Then they also announced that next week on NXT UK, Josh Briggs and Brooks Jensen will put their tag titles on the line against Wild Boar and Mark Andrews. So that should be interesting. And then Amal confronted Blair Davenport and said that she was going to unleash her anger upon her in the ring because Blair Davenport was talking kind of crazy on her name last week in Amal's match. So she walked up on her and Amal was just like, yo, like, since you want to talk this mess about me on commentary, let's settle this in the ring. And Blair Davenport was looking like, okay, fine, whatever. And I'm just like, no, you had that energy on commentary. You better have that energy in front of her face. Like, you want to get Buck behind her back, get Buck in front of her face. Do that. Don't be a warrior behind closed doors. Like, run up, get done up, but whatever. Um but that's basically what's happening there um with the women's division of NXT UK. Just a lot of fiery stuff going on. I love it. So yeah, then we have they showed a clip from Shaw Samuel sort of going through paying bets back in terms of Noam Dar losing the NXT UK Heritage Cup Championship. um and it was just really funny to sort of watch him have to pay all of his money back. But hey, that's what you got to do when you make bets on a person and you lose. You got to pay that money back. Gambling is so not, it's so risky. It's so risky. But some people really feel like they got it that good and they just got to play that game. So hey, whatever. How do you feel about everything that's happening with NXT UK and their women's division and with the Heritage Cup title changing hands?
I thought the Heritage Cup title change last week's a really freaking good match. It was really, really good, really hard hitting, and so I thought it was a really well earned victory. And so I want to see what else they do with it, and I love how they like the women. Like I said, I feel like NXT are really UK in particular, not because NXT has been doing well with women as well, but I feel like NXT UK true really hard to showcase, the wrestlers in a good way and the stories, and it's not wasted too much sometimes. And when you see like on Raw, when it's 3 hour show, and so there's a lot of like, what is this like? What is the purpose of this segment, or what is the purpose of this moment? And so, I like that their moments are really precise, or really like it's like, okay, this is clearly meant to progress the story, and so. I like what they're doing so far. I felt like since we've been covering it, they've been knocking it out the park, honestly.
Yeah, I feel the exact same way. Definitely. So the second match we have was Dave Mastiff versus Josh Moreau. And Josh Moreau was somebody that I was initially impressed with a few weeks ago in his match. But I don't know what happened to him, but somehow or another he had lots of kinesio tape all over his shoulders and on his legs. And I'm trying to figure out, bro, what happened to you? Like, what happened to you that where you just got like all this tape around you? But it seemed like even with all that tape, he was still able to utilize the parts of his body that were torn up against Dave Mastiff. And I believe this was probably my first time really watching Dave Mastiff wrestle. And it seemed like they had a lot of differences. There weren't a lot of parallels, in this match. Because of course you have Dave Mastiff, who is more of a power and brute strength type of wrestler, whereas Josh Morrell is like a fast moving sort of acrobatic type of wrestler.
Yeah.
But this match was really good. Even though I was kind of scared for Josh, like I said, because there were just so many injured parts that were being taken advantage of or whatever. But there was this really impressive part where he actually was in a headlock. Mastiff had him in a headlock, but then he stood up on his arms and back walked on his arms away out of the hold into the corner of the ring. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh my God, that's so cool. I like that. Like, I just feel like Josh impresses me every time I see him. But this match was pretty good. But even with all of everything that Josh Moreau was doing, Mastiff was just too strong for him, and he hit him with multiple rolling sentons, and then he planted him with a running senton splash in order to win the match. So Dave Mastiff came out the victor. So, Kat, what did you think of this match?
I thought it was good. Um there was a lot of really good moments I thought that really stood out too. I believe there was like one when like after Mastiff did like some slams, he got kicked. I thought it was over at that moment. He kicked out anyway, and I was like, oh okay.
Yeah.
There was a lot of like this was more like I want to say more technical. I felt like their wrestling was more on the technical side, and I thought it was really good. I thought this was a really really good match. They were both also kind of different styles, but they was able to kind of work well together. Where like I'm like, okay, like I really wasn't sure who was gonna win this because there were times where it's like, damn, like okay, like this can kind of go either way. But I thought it was a really like solid match. I thought it showcased them both really well. And like I can even see like if they have like a match again like in the future, I can see that being a thing with the way the match played out. Like it won't be too far stretched if they decide to got to go again. I feel like NXT UK pretty much don't have too many rematches as it is, but I can see it and I wouldn't mind. I feel like because they put on a like they showed out, they really did.
Yes, they really did. I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed this match. So if they were to decide to do a rematch, I wouldn't be mad about it at all. But even if they don't, it would still be okay too. But I really enjoyed this match. So Dave Mastiff with the win. So Katrina, I'm gonna let you take the lead because I wasn't, like I said earlier, I wasn't able to watch the rest of NXT UK. So I'm just going to let you take the lead and talk about what else happened on the show.
So the next match up was a women's match between Nina Samuels and Amila McKenzie. And so we're aware Amila kind of had a few losses recently. Uh and being that she's kind of like Meiko's prodigy, she kind of said she wanted her to be a little better. She expected more from her. And so I felt like she, used that to her advantage in this. I felt like there were a lot of moments where Amelia did a like there was where she like drove her shoulder into Nina's midsection a couple of times, like kind of like hard. And I'm like, okay, she's being a little bit more ferocious with it. She even did like this really awesome like Hurricanrana, which I thought was really good. And I felt like for most of it, I felt like in this she maintained most of the pace with Nina in this. And I felt like maybe that was like the fire she needed lit behind her to kind of get this like you know, to kind of maybe this will be like a new change for her. I felt like, even with, Nina tried to do like a roll up and I hate roll up pens. I really hate like roll ups when that's done. But Amelia was able to do like a suplex and pin and got the victory, which I thought was really cool. And I felt like it was necessary because not that she had a lot of losses, but again, you're supposed to be like being protegized by the NXT Women UK Women's Champion, and she's also like an amazing champion as well. And so, gotta represent well. And so I thought that was what she needed to kind of get her spark back, and she really did come out like blazing in this match. And so, you know, even with Nina trying, to do what she did, she still pulled off the victory. And I thought it was a really good match, and she snapped her losing streak.
That sounds good. Like that really sounds like something I should probably go back and watch. Yeah, Chad has more to say. Nina is so funny and entertaining, especially backstage. She could lose every match for the rest of her career, and I will still want to watch. Amelia is proper good and should be winning more often than not. Okay, yeah. He's very opinionated about that. But yeah, like Nina Samuels is kind of extra. You want to know who she reminds me of? Nina reminds me of Sharpay from High School Musical.
Sharpay was extra.
Yeah, she reminds
She
me of
was.
Sharpay from High School Musical in the sense that she wants everything to sort of be all about her and everything. But then it's just kind of like it's like when she loses or whatever, it's just like, all that flash isn't gonna help you win, and stuff like that. But then when she does, get down and gritty with it, she really can, fight and everything. But she just reminds me so much of Sharpay. Like, I feel like my brain is just a mashup of 10,000 different pop culture references all in one, and then it just pops out into wrestling, and it's just like boom. So yeah, that sounds really good though. So I might need to go back and watch that match for sure.
No, it was definitely a really good match. I probably for me, probably match for the night. For me. And so the main event was Trent Seven versus Sam Gladwell. And so, there was I believe it might have been last week or the week before, there was a backstage interaction, and this was clearly where it was going to show up for this match. And so this was a lot of stuff happening in this matchup too that I thought was really good. There was a moment, I believe, where there was like some I thought, for instance, when Trent was going after the knee of Sam. And so I'm a firm believer in having matches where in-ring psychology makes sense. And so if you like somebody's injured, going after the injured part always is like a plus for me, because I appreciate that kind of stuff. And you know while I felt this is more hard-hitting match, Trent did pick up the win. And I kind of wanted Sam to win this. I'm not gonna lie, I did, because I felt like Trent has been doing shenanigans the last couple of weeks, and so I really did want uh Trent to win this. Excuse me, Sam to win this. But Trent did come out with the win. And then after, the match kind of ended with Trent still kind of going after Sam after the win. And so we got the return of Mr. Tyler Bates. He like came to the audience and chased Trent out of the ring. And like he even, like, I believe there was a point where he kind of tumbled over the barricade to get out, which I thought was like really good. And so it was like, yay. Maybe this means it's gonna be a thing between Trent and Tyler now that he's back. But it pretty much ended with like the stare off between the two of them, with Tyler looking kind of scared and Trent looking like excuse me, Trent looking scared and Tyler looking like he was ready for some ass kicking. And so it was a solid match. I was a little bit annoyed with the win, but I did like that Tyler Bate did make his return. And so it ended with his return. I thought that was a really great way to end NXT UK.
I am so glad he came back. Like, yes, get your revenge. I am so pumped to hear that he came back at the end. Oh my god, yes. Yes. Yes, Tyler. Yes. Oh my god. Oh, yes. Whoo! Trent Seven versus Tyler Bray. Let's go. I'm so here for it. I'm here
Same.
for it.
Same.
Because you being stabbed in the back just because you weren't being dirty and underhanded to keep those NXT UK tag team titles was just not right. So you know what? I hope he comes back and he destroys Trent Seven. I need them to fight in a match tomorrow. I need it tomorrow. That's what I need. I need it tomorrow. I don't want to wait till next Thursday. I need it now.
He
I need
definitely
it now.
he's owed some revenge, definitely. So I'm hoping that means we will get that very soon.
Oh, I hope so. Jesus. Okay. But yeah, that sounds like a pretty solid way to end NXT UK. It sounds like a really great episode from start to finish.
It was.
So, yeah. So, thank you guys in the chat for joining us, for us talking about all the events and goings on of NXT 2.0 and NXT UK. As usual, you can find us here usually at 6 o'clock Central Standard Time, 7 o'clock Eastern on Twitch. You can find us here on Thursdays talking about NXT, both of the NXT shows. But I hope that you're checking out all of our other shows on Women's Wrestling Talk, because of course we do have another show that's going to come on tonight for Impact Wrestling. That after show with the Salt Shakers, please check them out. And then tomorrow we'll have SmackDown and Rampage after show with me and Drian Santana, our editor-in-chief. And then, of course, we have all kinds of other shows, including Dishing on the Indies, our news show that we call WWT Live, and so many other different shows going on. And of course, please check out our YouTube channel, subscribe to our YouTube channel, where all of these videos do go up, after we go off of Twitch and everything. So please check that out. And you can check out all of our interviews, past and present, that we've done as well. Please check that out. Subscribe to our Twitch channel, and also check out our website, www.talkpod.com, where we are selling merchandise, writing for Naomi, and women's wrestling merchandise as well. You can also check out our articles. We have new articles coming down the pike as well. Like, it's going to be really great stuff. You can check out our interviews and stuff there as well. And also follow us on social media. Follow us at WWTalkPod on Instagram and Twitter. But in the meantime, Kat, thank you for joining me as usual for the NXT After Show. And just tell everybody where they can find you.
I am pretty much on every social media platform and in Cat We Trust. If you are on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, the E in we is a 3, but on Facebook and YouTube, it is in Cat We Trust, the way it's spelled.
That's great. And as usual, know that you can follow me, your girl Stephanie Hardy, on Instagram and Twitter at Queen Steph Hardy. And also check out my podcast, The Hardy Wrestling Podcast, all 100 episodes of it. I am currently on hiatus, taking a break because I've got cool stuff going on. Even this weekend is the Alabama Music Awards. The Hardy Wrestling Podcast is nominated for Alabama Podcast of the Year. So send me good vibes as I go there, because I will be posting pictures and it's going to be great. So I'm excited to be there and represent wrestling fans in a new way and a new platform. So it's going to be great. So as usual, please know that I already did the whole spiel, but still follow us and check out everything that we've got going on at Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. So yeah, just continue to check us out and continue to show us love and everything, and show women's wrestling love, because we be out here, we be doing the daggum thing, regardless of other obstacles placed in our way. Women are awesome, and we do it all the time in wrestling. So until next time, bye y'all.
Bye.
Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet.